It's been a long period of time that we've been down here in Tampa, but a very productive one. We finish on a good note. Number of things that I felt played into a much more constructive and well-mannered game, if you like. There were a lot better pitches for us to see. I'm sure the same applied to them. So two very different games against two very different opponents. Surface was very decent, which obviously helped proceedings. But all in all, a really good run out again for the majority of guys for 45 minutes. The two outings that we've had thus far, you can see slowly but surely some of those individuals just moving through the gears a little bit more and showing a little bit more of that natural look, not only to their own play, but obviously to the team. So really pleased and delighted, of course, for young Sipic to get 45 minutes with a strong first half group.
We are going to transition to questions from the group. Drake, go ahead and feel free to ask any follow-ups if you have them.
Got it. Thanks, Chris. Gary, first things first, I guess from the past two games, we've seen Martino get some serious time for you guys. Does that have a direct correlation with Panico's status? What is his status? And from what you've seen from Martino, what's your overall first impression over the first two games? I'll ask the second question after the answer.
Yeah. Yes, Elliot is more precautionary. A couple of things happened in training that we're just making sure he's in the right place. Therefore, Ben's had his first opportunities rather quicker than he may have done otherwise. Look, he's got all of the tools, the physical tools that you might expect from a top-class goalkeeper. He's a big boy, 6'5" plus, very broad, very courageous, but he's a young man, and that position normally takes a little bit more time to mature. I have to say today he was far more professional in his outlook than maybe on Saturday. He just tried to, I think, impress a little bit too much with his feet, and it caused him a couple of problems. Today he played within himself, to his strengths, and looked far better for it. So, he's a work in progress, but certainly a lot of tools to try and work with.
My next question is, we didn't see Hani today, but I'm curious, what did you see in the first game and through preseason, first part of camp with him, given that he had a pretty successful year last year? From your perspective as a coach, how does someone who has achieved that much, leading goal scorer, Golden Boot, MVP, maybe not the trophies, but the level, how does one go about replicating that, and is that even possible to do like that back-to-back years?
Well, yeah, the straight answer is yes, of course it is. And he's had back-to-back years now with 20-plus goals and double-digit assists. So, he's more than capable of doing that. The off-season has been slightly different for Hani than usual. He's a very conscientious lad, and he goes back to Germany for the last couple of weeks of the off-season and normally gets a lot of good work in, I think, with, a fitness coach that he's known from, previous times back in Germany. He wasn't able to do that this year. There was a lot going on. He had one or two issues physically that he had to deal with. So it might just take a little bit longer for him to get back to that sharpness that we've known and love, and he's so productive. But today was more a case of allowing him to get a bit more core physical work done without the competition and the pressure of opponents. But he's in a good place, and I've no doubt he'll be sharp and ready for the opening game.
Chris, good for another one?
Go ahead.
You talked about Seppich getting 45 minutes, Coach. Obviously, had a lot of folks hearing about the praise that you had at the end of the first game. What's his runway? What are you expecting from him in camp? Is there an expectation ahead, or you just wanting to see where he goes and how he progresses throughout?
Well, I mean, it makes absolute sense that if you can get some sort of pathway for these young academy players going, the connection with the academy through to the now new Huntsville group and those stepping stones into the first team, you're looking at a very natural development picture. But you've got to be good enough. It doesn't, we're not just handing out opportunities because people populate our academy or Huntsville. If they're good enough, they'll be given a chance. And Adam's been absolutely terrific in the 2.5+ weeks that we've been down here. He's got through an awful lot of work. For a 16-year-old lad, he's really knuckled down, never heard him complain once. A lot of physical work. And he's also performed to a very decent level in and around, of course, an experienced group. So I thought it'd be a really nice opportunity against a talented and thoughtful U-20 group. Challenges against young MLS players, and his first opportunity to compete at that level. I thought he did a very decent job. Was he able to express himself? No. But what he has been able to show is that he's got a really bright and promising future in front of him. And there's no doubt that he has the sort of appetite and energy to keep improving.
But this is the first year with Huntsville being an option, being an opportunity. Is that the likely, landing point for him this year, or do you think he still has some time to go as far as development in the youth academy first?
Well, I would think the next steps will be him seeing some appearances in that Huntsville group. And then a lot of it is down to the individual. If he's impactful and he's showing immediate progress, then you would expect him, maybe to get a number of appearances under his belt. But I think that stepping stone is an important one for him, however long it lasts. Will he still play in the academy games? I've no doubt that there'll be opportunities to do that. But I think Adam's pathway now is through that Huntsville group. And of course, we'll be keeping a very close eye on him and hoping that, he can keep that trajectory going. And at the right time, we can bleed him into a game again and cut his teeth at the next level. And I think it really is about the right opportunities, giving the lad the right moment when he's confident and he's playing well, and then taking him back out again and saying, okay, still some things that you need to improve, and we've got the right environment to do that now.
One more question I had was about the guys who are still kind of recuperating. You mentioned after the first game, Dupuy having some muscle tightness. What's his status? And then, of course, Shaq as well, trying to come back to his normal fitness. What's the status on Shaq?
Yeah, Shaq, as I said, Shaq came into camp a little bit later because of his World Cup exploits. So he's a tad behind some of the other guys. He's got through some good core physical work that puts him in a decent place. But I just don't want to push Shaq too quickly. He's a very explosive character. And I think he just needed a little bit longer. And we may well start to see Shaq in the group when we get back home. We have the Louisville game, and then of course we have 4 competitive games when we come back down here again. Nick might be slightly longer than expected. Some soreness in and around the sort of calf areas, and maybe because of some issues he had in the off season, some stuff that was lingering from last year. And we just want to be careful with him. He's a big guy, grounds are firm in most cases, and he may just be out of the firing line for a couple more weeks to get him in the right place. But I think other than that, Randall picked up a little bit of a problem against New York that we're assessing and seeing what the damage is. But hopefully, again, a couple of weeks and he'll be back up and running. And a couple of other guys that, are just feeling the effects of a tough first 2.5 weeks.